Imagine
A podcast.
where time drifts slowly,
A podcast.
where
Isaac.
carries you away.
So let me be clear. We tortured some folks.
Besides being completely alienated from the world, there's another thing that we all share together, which is just our complete and unabashed hypocrisy. We are all hypocrites. And I'm about to be a massive hypocrite on this episode of Coexist. Hey, it's Isaac. I'm about to talk a lot of shit about Burning Man. As someone who has been to Burning Man and a couple regional burns and enjoys it. So, yeah, I'm a hypocrite, so sue me. So are you. Sit for a second. Think about it. Think about the ways in which you are also a hypocrite. So we're all in that together. But yeah, Burning Man. Weird thing. A lot of shit to talk. Kind of boring this year, right? Not a lot to say. But Herman and I, returning guest, my dear friend Herman, also known as Northwest MCM Wholesale, he joins me to talk about the Yearning Man. Is it over? Is Burning Man done? Is Burning Man burned out, man? I don't know. What does seem to be true about Burning Man is that it remains a Mardi Gras for the Silicon Valley ghouls of the world. I learned something kind of interesting about Burning Man, and we get into it a little bit in this episode. But some of the creatures who visit, we all know that characters like Elon Musk and Sergey Brin, the CEO of or founder of Google, are big attendees of the yearly festival. But there are some sub-characters who are interesting, including Sergey Brin's ex-wife, Nicole Shanahan, who was also RFK Jr.'s running mate. She would be vice president if you guys would just vote for RFK Jr. He'd be president if you guys voted for him. Nicole Shanahan's interesting character. She was married to Sergey Brin, who was also a big attendee of Burning Man, until she cheated on him with Elon Musk, also another big attendee of Burning Man. Now, what's interesting about Shanahan is that just last year, she held a love ceremony of commitment with her current partner, Jacob Strumwasser. She described the event as a hand-fasting ceremony influenced by Druidic tradition. Also funny was that RFK's daughter-in-law and also his digital campaign strategist, and happens to be a former undercover CIA agent who's married to his son, RFK Jr. the Third. They met at Burning Man. So RFK Jr.'s administration would be entirely made of burners. Can you imagine being run by that? Also, you'd think that a Kennedy would try to keep their distance from the CIA as much as possible. But yeah, that's not the case with RFK. He is blackmailed by the CIA, as I said in a previous episode. So anyway, Herman and I get into it. Hope you enjoy it. And if you do enjoy it, if you enjoy the stuff I do, I get emails when someone signs up for my Patreon, and when I get at least one or two or more a day, it really just inspires me to work harder for you guys. So, if you haven't already, please like, subscribe. It's so embarrassing doing this thing. Please stop making me do this and just sign up, and I'll shut up. I won't talk about it anymore. All right?
I'm a fire starter, twisted fire starter. You're the fire starter, twisted fire starter.
I really appreciate you coming on and doing the show while you're at Burning Man. I mean, you're using Starlink, right, to report on the ground. We're doing some real journalism here. Herman is on the playa.
It a long time coming. My third year making fun of Burning. Finally invited to the Horned Frog circus calliope tent to do mescaline with Steve, playa name Coyote, in his Bedouin style. You can see my backdrop. It's obvious that I'm on the playa right now.
Yeah. I wanted to go this year, but I'm gonna have to live vicariously through you. What's your playa name?
My playa name is Herman, I think. Yeah, my playa name will be Herman. It's my internet name and my playa name. Why not? I mean, I know my real name. You know my real name. What am I supposed to do? Add a third name? Inception level.
This is your chance to take a break from one of your other personalities and become the person you really are meant to be.
Have you found yourself, like, I don't remember when it happened for me, but have you found yourself with two personalities? You do have you just something about social media brings it out of you. You have your brash, annoying, shitpost online persona, which there's elements of your real personality there. Then you kind of lean into that, and then it kind of bleeds into your personal life. Has that happened to you? Have you noticed there have been two people emerging? Are you not there yet?
I definitely am different online than in real life. I think that I'm a very nice guy in real life. Maybe a little arrogant.
Me too.
But yeah, what you have to shield yourself on the internet. You can't always. I feel like I'm a pretty sincere, kind of like cringy guy in real life. Like I'm into like actual woo woo shit, and I really believe and I have hope and I try. But on the internet, you have to abandon that shit or else you'll get eaten alive. And so, I definitely put a little bit of a cloak on when I'm posting and interacting with people.
I'm a fan of rock music, punk music, and so I've just watched documentaries or whatever. Like people like David Bowie, Alice Cooper, Iggy Pop. Over the years, I'd hear them, and I'm not comparing myself to those people, by the way, but they all kind of had a similar story where they were just teenagers that want to make rock music. Then they created this kind of art character that they had to go inhabit, and then your professional performer, basically the character starts taking over, and then you lose yourself into maybe the things that the character would do, like drugs and sex and things like that. And I mean, there's a reason like all those guys, like they kind of got way into drugs and then like pulled out, like you start to lose your sense of self, I think, at a certain level of fame or notoriety. Once again, not comparing myself to that, but it fucks with your head when you have thousands of people that think they know you and think that this sort of online persona is the real you when it isn't. I always knew that wasn't me. It's fake. It's on your phone.
Yeah,
so
David Bowie when he did pedophilia, when he had sex with underage girls and boys, that was his character. That wasn't him being himself.
Oh no, love, you're not alone.
So you can't hold him accountable for that. He's just it was an art performance.
I'm not gonna comment on that statement. No. Yeah, I'm not gonna go anywhere near that. But maybe it's not the best example. I'm a fan of David Bowie's music.
Yeah,
I am able to see the art from the artist. I hope that's okay.
I'll allow it.
It was also the 70s. It can't be understated that it was like a different time. I'm not making excuses for that, obviously, but it was totally a different time. I mean, it just was not as. I mean, like didn't Jerry Lee Lewis marry his 14-year-old cousin on TV? Everybody's like, oh, it's a little weird.
Microplastics are making us age more slowly. It is true that girls are having periods later and later in life, so there might be some biological factors there.
I thought the hormones from milk were making people hit puberty sooner and grow. Who knows anymore?
Who knows? Plus, we're not okay. We're not gonna. Well, we might touch on some pedophilia things here, but we're here to talk about Burning Man.
Oh, we are talking
Obviously,
about Burning Man, so I'm
yeah,
sure we'll talk. Well, yeah,
yeah,
touch on
yeah,
it, of course.
yeah. Herman, playa named Herman, is not actually at Burning Man.
Got him!
We got you. If you guys fell for it, it's we're that good at actors. But Burning Man, as we speak, is going on. It's a couple days left, and I wanted to bring Herman on the show to talk about Burning Man because that's kind of how you kind of blew up a bit last year from your Burning Man posts.
Yeah, it was already on its way up, and then the Burning Man took it over the top. There was some article. I was interviewed. I don't even remember who interviewed me. Slate, whichever one of those. Some other publication maybe. They went mainstream. I was seeing them everywhere.
But yeah, this year's Burning Man is kind of blasé. There's not people aren't talking about it largely because unlike last year, so far there hasn't been some sort of weather disaster that fucked everything up, and there aren't celebrities like Diplo and Chris Rock escaping on private jets and leaving the peasants to suffer in the mud. So there's not.
Yeah, last year was really a gift for people like us. I mean, it just
Yeah.
from wire to wire, it was a gift. There were the protesters blocking the roads, the rains, the celebrity escape. Didn't somebody die? I think someone dies every year. I don't know. Then the fake monkeypox scare. It was just
yeah.
every
It was. God, it wasn't dengue. It was. I've already forgotten.
Oh, Ebola.
Ebola, yeah, the Ebola scare. That was a really good troll.
Ebola, yeah.
That was a very good troll.
It was great, yeah.
So I wanna start the show by asking the question: is Burning Man dying? Is it burned out man now? What do you think?
Well, I know that when people usually do podcasts, they'll the interviewer and then the guest, they'll do an extensive bit of like research and I know that you do that, but I do the opposite. I do zero research on anything that you ask me to talk about.
Vibes only. Vibes research.
This Burning Man episode is no different than every other time I've been on your show. I've done no research whatsoever. But well, when I say research, I mean I see stuff on the internet, but I don't know. After you see something on the internet, that's just layer one. Then you have to go try to find other sources. I mean, so what I've read is that there was rain in the beginning that just delayed people. Someone died day one, and then what I've heard is that sales are down, and I'll see people posting like Burning Man's in its flop era, etc. So if we assume that that's all true, yeah, I think collectively we're fatigued by Burning Man. Yes.
Yeah, I think it is true that this was the first year since 2011 that Burning Man did not sell out, and people were trying to hawk tickets. They couldn't go for whatever reason, probably because they were Israelis stuck in Israel, and so they couldn't go.
Are there that many Israelis that come over to Burning Man?
Oh my God, yes. In fact, I went with one in 2015. Okay. And we're definitely going to talk about I think this is also a factor in the downturn of people not going to Burning Man, which is the genocide, the ongoing genocide, and the fact that October 7th, I mean, everyone brings up the Nova Music Festival that Hamas attacked and allegedly killed, I think, 400 ravers and kidnapped quite a few of them. And I want to get into that for sure. I have some very fun things to say about Israel and Burning Man and psytrance rave culture. But yeah, the low attendance, I think, there's a number of factors. I think one is last year was such a shit show. I think a lot of people were like, I don't want to potentially risk that again. I was listening to some Bloomberg episode about this year's Burning Man, and they were saying that inflation is to blame. Bidenflation is the reason why, because it is exorbitantly expensive to go to Burning Man. I was actually just looking. So I went in 2015. I've told you this story before. I'm going to tell the listeners again, so bear with me. But in 2015, I was invited to go to Burning Man for 24 hours with this Israeli named Nimrod. And I met him when I was in Israel in 2014, and we became friends. And I just got a call from him one day, and I'm going to do my best Israeli accent impression. He's like, "Isaac, can you drive?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "All right, we're going to Burning Man." And I received an email, and it was like he won a bid on 2 Burning Man tickets to that year, and he couldn't drive, so he needed someone to drive him from the Reno airport to Black Rock City. And so I was like, yeah, sure, fuck it. And I looked at it, it was like $1,000+, like it was $1,100 for the tickets, and that they're even more now. That was for 2 tickets, $1,100. It was the plane tickets, the round trip plane tickets to Reno. It was the car that we had to rent. It was all the gear he wanted to buy beforehand. And we stopped at a Walmart on our way to Black Rock City outside of Reno, and he just filled the shopping cart with shit. And I was just like, dude, we're going to be there for 24 hours. Like, you don't need a lot of stuff. But he said, he looked at me and he's like, Holocaust mentality. And I was like, okay.
Oh, God.
But I went there without much expectation. I'd known people who had gone there. At Reed College, we had our thing called Ren Fair, which is kind of like a drug music.
Oh, I know Ren Fair. Explain it for the audience at home.
Ren Fair is a 3-day long party at Reed College, which is, as far as I understand, it's fucking dead now. They don't do it anymore, really. Like, they do it, but they don't do it anymore. And it was very much in the vein of Burning Man. It's like this sort of free-for-all where people were making all kinds of art projects and doing all kinds of drugs and dressing up real weird. Very, very, very fun. I had a blast doing it. And I had a really good time at Burning Man too. Like, I went there as the cynic, the critical cynic that I am. I wanted to just like talk shit and hate on it. But the funny thing about Burning Man is that it's fucking awesome. Like, it is so much fun to do it. And so I don't begrudge anyone who enjoys Burning Man. You'd be dumb not to have fun there. And you got someone offered you a free ticket this year, right?
After the fest last year, one of the bigger camps offered me, I don't even know how they work. One of the more luxury camps, they were like, "We will pay for you to come next year. We think you'll have fun." I mean, I try to tell people this. I don't even have like an opinion on Burning Man or much else that I post about. We're just sort of documenting it,
Mm-hmm.
and people, I know it would be fun. I know I would have fun. Anyway, I did not, it's a lot of these things that don't happen for me. I've realized are my fault because I didn't follow up on it.
Mm-hmm.
I could have gone to Burning Man this year. Yes. Next year, these are more talks. Me and I don't know, basically a famous comedian that everyone knows asked me to go with them via Instagram. So that one I'm going to follow up with.
Tell me, and I'll beep it out. I'll beep it out, but tell me, and I'll beep it out.
No, it's a comedian I like. You'll bleep it out?
Yeah, I'll bleep it out.
Better fucking bleep it out. Okay.
Yeah, I'll
leave
bleep it
that
out.
bad word in.
I'll bleep it out.
It's okay, here goes. Get your bleeper ready.
Oh shit, that would be so much fun.
That would be great. And yeah, because I'm a fan of them, comedian.
Okay, you just narrowed it down to one of the very few non-binary comedians out there. So
Yeah, one of the very few non-binary comedians that I like. No, I mean, so something like that, I'm definitely going to follow up on that. But the other thing too about the Instagram DMs or the social media DMs when you're a famous influencer like you and I, there's a lot of stuff that comes through the DMs that never happens, and that sometimes I remember I'm like, oh, most people are drunk this time of night, so people are drunk. They're offering you things. They want to fly you to Miami to DJ their bar that they're opening. Those things don't happen because there's a lot of drunk people in the DMs. Sometimes they're famous, and sometimes they're rich. That doesn't mean it's going to happen for you, whatever it is. But I would like to go next year, assuming I'm still even doing the account, and I'd like to go with in a situation like that where we can go see what kind of trouble we can get into at Burning Man.
Dude, get me
Yeah.
a ticket with that they them. I'd love to go.
Oh, if that happens, and yeah, if that happens, I mean, I'll bring a crew.
Yeah, we'll revitalize this dying festival. So, yeah, I think there are a handful of reasons why people aren't going. I think another reason why people aren't going is just because, yeah, it's and this is not a novel observation, but it's just filled with annoying people now. And people who, I mean, there are endless articles in Jacobin about, oh, Burning Man's been gentrified now, and it's like, yeah, well, fucking duh, like no, like that's old news. But the types of people who are going is very funny. One of my favorite characters from last year's Burning Man, who I assume is probably there right now, his name is Neil Katyal, and he was a Supreme Court lawyer. And what made him funny was he was wearing like one of those little like beanie spinner caps and making this little like soy face and dressed all goofy. And this is the man who argued in front of the Supreme Court to not punish the Nestle Corporation for child slavery. So he argued in favor of child slavery, and there he is on Burning Man being like, woo, free love, radical inclusion. Oh my God.
Well, wasn't there something a year ago about being welcoming to libertarians and conservatives, and that's how inclusive and billionaires? We were that inclusive that we welcome.
Radical inclusivity is one of the 10 tenets, principles that the founder Larry Harvey came up with back in 1986 when they first started doing this Burning Man thing. But I just want to go back for a second to talk about how the argument that Neil made in front of the Supreme Court to not punish Nestle for violating these laws was that Nestle's lawyers did not deny there was slavery in its supply chain, but instead argued, among other things, that corporations cannot be liable for violations of customary international law or human rights violations. Nestle lawyers extensively referenced the Nuremberg trials in their argument for impunity, desperately pleading that even the corporation that supplied Zyklon B gas, which the Nazis used to kill millions, was not convicted during that trial. That was this guy's argument. I wonder if he came up with it on the playa, being like, "Oh my God, like we should say that if you didn't punish Bayer Pharmaceuticals, you can't punish Nestle." So those are the kinds of creeps who attend Burning Man now. So I do think there's like a super sinister, like awful element to it that is a result of the stranglehold that this iteration of Silicon Valley has on Burning Man, because it was always a Silicon Valley festival. I mean, it was started in like San Francisco, Portland, and it just shows the just how depraved Silicon Valley is today.
I think that originally it was artists and like the 80s San Francisco survival research labs and like noise musicians and people like that. I think that was the original like dream of Burning Man, and it's just gradually the goalposts have moved and moved and moved till it's whatever it is now. I've heard from some burners that there's almost like an industry for some people that have been doing it for 25 years. So there's a lot of like old head burners that's a big part of their income is, participating in the festival, doing the festival. There's people that have been going for 30 years that they continue to go because it's just like a subculture or thing that they're in, that they really hate what it has turned into. It was kind of a really enlightening little like couple messages I got about it. So there's multiple layers to Burning Man.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's like diehards. There's people that go to all the burns. There's the tech posers that go there for a week. They're probably coding 70 hours a week the rest of the year.
Hmm.
There's, dilettantes. There's rich people there to. I mean, I think it's a weird mixed bag of people. I don't think you can say everyone at Burning Man is the same. There are burners,
Oh,
wooks,
for
people that
sure, for
just
sure.
party and go to festivals. I think it's pretty diverse.
I
So
just think that the threshold of evil people has been crossed. I think that there are just too many of these characters now. I learned that Kimball Musk, Elon's cowboy hat wearing brother, is part of like the nonprofit board there. By the way, Kimball Musk, here's a pedophilia reference. Jeffrey Epstein procured him his girlfriend, and he dated Jeffrey Epstein's ex for about 2 years. So there's our first pedophilia. I should do like a Pee Wee Herman style, sort of like wow, 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 whenever I mention pedophilia on my show.
today's secret word is
Yeah. Today's secret pedophile is, and so yeah, I think that what I think it's become for a lot of people, for these Silicon Valley ghouls, is a kind of like Mardi Gras, a kind of atonement for them. They're a day of atonement, to let go of all the evil shit they do for a second and be like, look, I am human and I believe in these beautiful like woo woo principles. Here I am, like hugging a stranger and shit and giving and like not using money. Look at me. I'm not exchanging money to buy things.
definitely a secular Mardi Gras. I think people have written about that before. The Bacchanalian fest where you go, yeah. I guess you indulge in some hedonism that you don't have time for normally. You go lose yourself in the music and the natural beauty and all that, and then you fucking go back to work, go back to your normal life. I think the thing that irritates me the most about it, this is what I truly, I will say, hate about Burning Man, is I hate the way that um, there is this sort of like, well, everything's free. We're giving out free uh, grilled cheese, like Havarti grilled cheese, like bacon sandwiches. Everything's free. Like, come here and it's free. Like, our can camp here. This shit, the real like uh, utopian, like kumbaya, whatever. Like the fact that, I mean, I would like that world to exist all the time for
Mm-hmm.
everyone. That's like how far gone. That's how far of a hippie I am. The fact that, because there's a lot of, I know I do have one friend that is a burner, that I've known for years, and I think that she saves money, and she's not rich. She like saves money to go to this thing that she enjoys, and probably brings things to give away and like donates her time and makes the art and makes things,
Mm-hmm.
like I feel like we've been so ripped off to think that there's like this, the utopian Burning Man dream. It's just something you get like once a week, you know. I'm trying to find ways to meme that. I think I sort of did today. Like, so you get all this like great stuff. We're all coming together and blah blah blah. It just seems so hypocritical. You get it for 1 week a year. You get like the Garden of Eden, but with more like sex and drugs, and then then just go back to work.
Yeah,
You know,
it does feel unfair, and it feels like they're teasing you, being like, "Oh, we actually think this concept is cool too, but we're not going to give it to you. We're hoarding
yeah,
utopia." And
we
I,
could
I
have something like that. I think we could have a better world than the one we have now, but we don't. You know,
no, and these are the people that's what's so frustrating to me. That's why that's what disgusts me about Burning Man is not uh that there are it's very diverse. There are lots of cool people. I've been to some other burn events. Like I went to Love Burn in Miami a couple years ago, and that was honestly one of the best times I've had in my life. I had
You've been
it
to
was
other
just-
regional burns and similar transformational fests?
yeah, yeah. It was incredible. It was funny. I went there with some guy I'm not friends with anymore and his girlfriend, and they're like these deeply cynical like pleasure seekers. Like when I did acid with them, I had to get away from them. It was so toxic being around them and just how they were fiending for stimulus. And I was just like, we took the same amount of acid, dude. Can you just like chill and feel this? Like, why do you want more, more, more? And they were very much like a plug and play type of person, and they ordered their like bodysuits on Amazon. They're like festival bodysuits, which is always so funny to me about how Burning Man is supposed to be this space of pure creativity and individualism, and yet everyone dresses the fucking same. Like what? Like there's like a burner look. Like what kind of individuality is that exactly?
Well, you just said you guys went to Walmart. When I was looking on TikTok, there were all these like, what do you think about my face chain? This some weird Burning Man bullshit face chain. I got this on Amazon. Click to the next one. Like, check out my Burning Man like day one outfit. It's more Amazon stuff. There's like people talking about like Costco, like prepping for Burning Man. Step one, go to Costco. That seems like the and really annoying about this. Like, I don't buy anything new. I don't have an Amazon account. Never have. Never will. My friends got me into that mindset of like, don't buy any food that comes wrapped in plastic. You know what I mean? Don't use plastic. I don't like consumerism. I don't like waste. I don't shop at like box stores. It's annoying. It's my veganism. I'm annoying as hell. But I don't hit people over the head with it. And I just so that part of me cannot wrap my head around like going on a crazy Costco run, burning all this gas, buying all this shit, tents, outfits you're gonna wear one day a year
Yep.
to go down to the playa to participate in this like fake utopian dream.
Yeah,
You know?
one of the other principles that Larry Harvey, the founder, came up with was like decommodification, right? That was one of the 10 principles. And yet they've commodified utopia. It's like it's like collecting an experience, like checking it off the box instead of like actually doing it, feeling it, being there. It's kind of the same way like climbing Mount Everest or doing ayahuasca, like going to Burning Man is the same sort of collector's item for this pseudo enlightenment.
I did attempt to do some research for this. My research kind of dead ending after like an hour or two on TikTok looking at Burning Man content.
Yeah.
But I kept hearing about like the deep playa. Oh my God, my first deep playa experience. I guess that's you're on drugs, you're out in the playa at night, running into random people and seeing art debris that was left out there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It looks like a beautiful place. I'm not nearly outdoors as much as I would like or as much as I should be, but I've definitely had like those moments where you're just overwhelmed by natural beauty. It's pretty easy on the West Coast, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't need other people around for that. Some of the most kind of beautiful moments in my life where I've experienced something beautiful, like an incredible full moon where the moon's really low in the sky and Mount Hood's behind it, or I'm in the high desert in Oregon all by myself at sunset. You know, I don't need other people around.
Yeah, but imagine
You know?
if you were seeing that full moon behind Mount Hood on acid while Psytrance is playing in the background. Imagine how much more beautiful it would be.
I guess I will find out next year
Yeah.
when I
when
when I
we
go
go with
comedian.
wait, I'm trying to think of that comedian, the like New Zealand like non-binary comedian. It's not them that you're going with, but I might have just edit this out because I'm
I
trying
don't
to,
even remember what I said anymore. I'm just making it all this up.
yeah,
Remember what
it's
I
all
said.
lies. It's all lies. I think a lot of people's
Yeah.
supposed deep playa moments too are fake, and they, especially if they do it. I'm sorry, if you have ego death and you like pull out your phone, turn on the selfie camera and record your ego death, you're a fucking liar. That is not ego death.
And then
You
and then
cannot
upload it
film
to
your own ego
TikTok.
death. Yes, you can't. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
You can't do that. And the former friend of mine who I went with was kind of like that. Like, I remember being around them through this thing, and I gave him his playa name, which he didn't like. My playa name at Loveburn was Big Dumb Cowboy because I wore a cowboy hat and a Dragon Ball Z Scouter. And what's very fun about this stuff is like you can just fuck with people. And so I was like, when I was waiting to go use the bathroom, I had the Dragon Ball Z Scouter on, and guys would come out, and I would say how big their penis was. I'd be like, 2 inches. You know, it's like really fun to fuck with people like that. And people are like, in good spirits and they let you fuck with them. But this guy I went with, who I called Jeff Bot Gay Thousand, he didn't like that name.
That was Nimrod, or that was a
No,
different
no. Nimrod's a good guy. This was Loveburn in Miami, not the original Burning Man. But it was funny being
okay.
with this guy and his girlfriend, and when we left the festival after 4 days, driving back from Miami to Sarasota, and within 15 minutes of leaving, they immediately started talking about how that was the best time they've ever had in their life. That was such an amazing time. And I was like, I was with you guys. You guys were miserable. You were having a terrible time. I watched you guys freak out. What are you talking about? And so I don't even trust people's supposed beautiful experiences they have at Burning Man because
Is there a name? There's a name for that phenomena, right?
probably it's a
There's a
German
name for-
thing. I don't know.
Yeah, the German words don't count. Those are cheating. You just take five. You just take a sentence and turn it into a word. Now, where your memory of something is better than the actual experience. You know what I mean?
I understand.
That would be like an immediate memory.
I'm sure one of our
Yeah.
listeners is screaming it right now. But yeah, it's these people who don't get it, who go there, and Silicon Valley is filled with people who don't fucking get it, who are filled with this kind of hubris that I find appalling. And I think that's part of what's killing Burning Man too. I read that Elizabeth Holmes, the felon who did the whole Theranos fiasco, before she went to prison, she went there with her husband, and she burned a tribute to Theranos and said, there was an indescribable sense of grief because I'd given everything to it my whole life since I'd been 18. So like that's it's almost like she misses the point of what she did and why. It's like you should probably really burn yourself, I think would probably be more appropriate than burning, I don't know, some blood vial for your Theranos bullshit.
This is a good little aside for everyone listening and for you. And I've told all my friends this. If you ever find yourself you get like kind of scammed or ripped off, or I don't remember the Theranos details off the top of my head, but I think it extends into the bigger like finance, like Sam Bankman-Fried and all these like the bigger financial fraud. Okay, if you ever find yourself getting like ripped off financially by someone or scammed, they more often than not, they are not aware of the fact that they scammed you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I do believe that Elizabeth Holmes believed that this was going to happen, that through the sheer will of her willpower itself, her desire that what she wanted to manifest would come true if she just tried hard enough.
Yeah, and there's little things along the way that she had to deal with, and she had to do certain things to make the original dream happen. I mean, I have a friend who's maybe experienced this, like kind of got ripped off in various business ventures, and he's trying to sort it out and get money from someone, and just like, he doesn't really realize that he ripped you off. He thinks that things happened and he had no choice but to. Do you know what I mean?
All right, I taught you a lesson, man. I was teaching you a lesson. Now you know.
No,
better.
you don't understand what the stress, and then this happened. People that rip you off don't think they ripped you off. It'll just help you later in life if you realize that. It's happened to me.
I listened to this one religious podcast that was talking about Burning Man, and it was like I don't know, some pastor who was taking things a little too seriously. And the way he said the word queer was with like this like palpable disdain. So I immediately knew this was going to be a good podcast. But they were lamenting the pagan ritual that is Burning Man, and they were comparing it to something like Mecca, where people would go and perform this thing. And they started talking about like the World Economic Forum and how this is promoting communism, which like again, that's fucking stupid, you know. like
Yeah,
do you even
the opposite of
understand who these yeah, exactly, do you know who these people are? But I think that they're kind of on to something, that it is most certainly a kind of ritual. I don't like to use the word sacred, but it certainly is worshiping something. And I wonder if that worship is the self. I do think that hyper individualism is satanic. I think that if there are demons out there, I don't really believe in Satan or hell or anything like that, but if it is like that voice inside ourselves that just emphasizes radical individualism.
Well, what does the Burning Man symbolize to the people that go to the fest?
It sounds like I think
Do you know?
what Burning Man does, and this is what's the merry prankster element of it, from like the 60s, is this sort of like tongue-in-cheek, constant irony, joking, like, what do we mean? What do I mean? I don't know what I mean. Which I think is really fun. It can be a very good exercise up to a point. I think that when someone accused Larry Harvey of doing the Wicker Man like pagan ritual of, you know, like burning a man inside of a wicker basket, like that's what the Burning Man looked like. He said he wasn't familiar with that movie or that Celtic ritual. Who knows? But it was kind of like I think it meant to be some kind of ego death, which is bullshit if you ask me. There's a big trend these days in the parapolitical world, and I don't think anybody would be surprised now to hear about, you know, how the hippie revolution of the 60s was largely supplied and financed by the CIA. Like intelligence is largely responsible for that movement.
Aspects of it, not all of it.
Well,
from what I understand,
a lot more aspects than I'd like to even admit, because a lot of these artists are artists that I love. But, you know, it is a known fact that Timothy Leary was a CIA asset, and when he got popped for marijuana possession, you know, he got let out pretty suspiciously and began working pretty closely with the CIA. Even the origins of acid itself are quite sus. I think that they were
government.
If anyone's done acid, I think you'd know that it's kind of hard to really mind control someone with that stuff. It's I just don't think you could get consistent enough results to possibly get people to do certain things. But in that book Chaos, Tom O'Neill's book Chaos, that exposed the Manson murders for the CIA op that they were, and what they were meant to, or they were intended to do, was to destroy the hippie movement, destroy the anti-war movement. The author David McGowan, he wrote this book called Weird Scenes from the Canyon. It was about like Laurel Canyon artists like the Doors, the Byrds, the Turtles, all these talentless artists who kind of arose all of a sudden out of nowhere and were the face of the anti-war movement, and how the CIA was like, not only was the CIA right there at the Overlook Observation Tower, but Jim Morrison's father was
I know about Jim Morrison's father. Yeah,
he was the admiral who orchestrated the Gulf of Tonkin false flag. Frank Zappa's father was a biochemical weapons engineer. You know, you had all these like very super suspicious connections with this movement, with this sort of free individual spirit movement that I think is antithetical to communism. And so these religious pastors who think that who are capitalists for whatever reason, who see Burning Man as some sort of like pro-communist festival, It's like, it's not. It is the festival of the individual, which I think goes completely against these movements that could actually change the world for the better.
Okay, two things. First of all, the Turtles are one of my favorite bands. And they sort of went from this kind of major label fake Beatles carbon copy with some good songs, mind you. They kind of slowly morphed into a real band. I like their like bubblegum songs. I love Happy Together, but Turtle Soup by the Turtles, I believe it was their last album before Flo and Eddie went solo and started working with Frank Zappa. Turtle Soup is a good album. So that's point number one. Point number two, I don't think that the government is really smart enough to do anything. I think there's these other things bubbling up. And then the government goes, or what do we prefer? Deep state, Pentagon, the spooks, whatever it is, the preferred term. They see what's going on and then they go, huh, we have to find out about this. We have to get, then they kind of get in there and then it's a roller coaster after that. I don't think that our I just don't think the deep state is very smart,
But maybe that's what the deep state wants you to think. I don't know. I'm torn about this too because when I do meet these, like, I don't know if you listen to any of the Peter Thiel, Joe Rogan podcast.
You don't feel that climate science is a real science?
It is. Well, there's several different things one could say.
I have not listened to that yet.
But
can you believe I'm dragging my feet on listening to that one?
You don't want to listen to this guy go for 3.5 hours with Joe Rogan being like, interesting.
Edit on Twitter where they've edited all his into it's almost like a 30-minute long compilation of
intolerant. Again, the Silicon Valley hubris, the fact that this guy who has anti-charisma, zero fucking riz, would think that people should listen to him for 3.5 hours. Real G's move in silence like lasagna.
Bitch, real G's move in silence like lasagna.
Right? So the fact that he went out there and just sounded like a moron, and people like Elon Musk, when they open their fucking yaps, they're stupid. They're fucking dumb people. And so I do think that there is certainly an element of the deep, quote unquote, deep state is not as all-seeing as they'd like to think they are. However, one of the more underrated Coen brother movies, Hail Caesar, I think is kind of an interesting look into the machinations of these kinds of worlds. I think we all agree that like Hollywood is just this total payola, like bureaucratic system that's controlled by all these fixers and managers, and no one gets famous by accident, or like it's very, very rare that you slip through the cracks and become famous. And so I think when you think about fame, I think you can think about events too, and culture, and how, for me, it's just a cui bono, right? Or why wouldn't they do that? They recognize the power of culture, the power of media. Why wouldn't they have their hands all up in it? And so while I don't think that they're omnipotent or infallible, I certainly do think that they make the most out of a crisis. They never let it go to waste. I do think that they're involved in it more than we'd like to believe. So I think what's to talk about the intelligence community and Silicon Valley, which I think we all know are quite linked together. The fact that the Silicon Valley has completely inundated, or has always been a part of, but now I think makes up a quite a large percentage of the Burning Man and the Burning Man culture, is something that's ruining it too. I listened to this other podcast where a former CIA agent who worked undercover in El Salvador during all our war crimes there, who went on to found a private company, who then became a huge burner, park ranger type fellow, to me is like the perfect like trajectory of these kinds of people. And there was an article, I think back in 2015, about how the FBI had infiltrated Burning Man and was like keeping tabs on people. And one of my favorite little tidbits I learned recently about RFK Jr., whose family just cannot stay away from the CIA, was that for his failed campaign, he hired Amaryllis Fox to be his digital strategy campaign manager. She is a former CIA agent, and she married RFK the third when they met at Burning Man. They're all there, and I do think that considering that the CIA trades in sexual blackmail and the amount of drugs that they've used in the past to entrap people, get them to have sex, film them having sex with, either men or children or whatever. The Burning Man is ripe for sexual blackmail. It's very open sexually. You're not supposed to have cameras, but the cameras are fucking everywhere now. So I don't see why the CIA wouldn't, get some Google CEO or executive to catch him having like the most disgusting sex in the orgy dome and be like, okay, now you're going to do exactly what we say now or else this goes out.
Oh, that's not even that far-fetched to me. I 100% believe that. I want to back up a little bit, though.
Back up.
Because you're talking about the deep state and you're talking about tech people. One thing that you are that we're kind of skipping over that I want to make it really well known. This is another one of my theories. There is like a malicious force that it's a thread that runs through both of those tech people to the deep state. That malicious force is known as nerds.
Homer, that isn't very nice.
Marge, try to understand. As a jock, it is my duty to give nerds a hard time.
Like
Yes.
uncool, book smart
Yes,
people
dude.
that have no real street smarts. They're probably on the spectrum, the bad part of the spectrum, not the good part of the spectrum.
The Elon Musk
Yes.
part of the spectrum, yes.
Exactly. Elon Musk is a fucking nerd. Like I know one person that joined the FBI a long time ago. Nerd, complete fucking nerd. Didn't even know why they were joining the FBI. It was basically like, well, seems like a good job. Like, do you even know what you're getting yourself into?
Right.
Twin Peaks was probably more damaging. They Twin Peaks made the FBI seem like kind of cool nerds. They're not. They're like fucking nerds. Even cops are nerds, and all through society, it has been like nerdified, and the nerds have way too much power.
Mm-hmm.
I would put that into like the left wing activist community. That that there's way too many nerds in there that are like very rules oriented, and you can't do this and you can't do that. These are all fucking dorks that sat at the front of the class, and they all went different directions, I guess. But there's if you start looking for it, you'll see it. A good friend of mine pointed this out to me. He was like, "You got it all wrong. The problem is," it was a serious conversation. I'm basically stealing his whole thesis. He was like, "The problem is nerds." And if you really think about it, it's just these people that don't have like a high understanding of things. They're book smart and they don't have like a big picture view on anything.
And they can also rationalize anything. I think when you're a really smart person, you can rationalize any kind of behavior. And speaking of how bad nerds are, if anyone's watched Revenge of the Nerds, they're rapists. They literally rape women. And it's and they're like, hoo, hoo, hoo. Like, I got one. Like, I deserve this somehow.
Yeah, their big prank was like basically like a class A like sex offense. They like put cameras in and recorded all the women
they pretended to be somebody else and had sex with someone with like while pretending to be her boyfriend, which is rape. And
in the
the
80s,
only good one
that was funny though.
The only good one was Booger, and Booger was not a nerd. Booger was cool.
He was an outcast.
Yeah. No, nerds are. I completely believe this thesis. Nerds are the problem, and I mean, I
Correct.
like to make the distinction between like dorks and nerds, but I guess like no, nerds are the problem. I think everyone should just really aspire to be a dumb guy with a heart of gold. Like really, like we need to pump himboification of the population, because yeah, the nerds are destroying us. The geeks are inheriting the earth.
Well, to make the thesis a little better, did you see Fog of War, or like Robert McNamara? If you look at the way the Vietnam War was mismanaged,
Mm-hmm.
it was such a like hyper rational nerd approach to it, and it was all about like statistics and numbers and bombing raids, and that's how
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's why I hate political science majors. It's these
yeah.
poli sci majors who are in the Biden administration who are helping to rationalize genocide. They're the ones who say, no, this is realpolitik. This is how it works. And I have a degree that says so.
Was a nerd.
Yep.
It's
Oh,
nerds, man. That's the
horny nerd too. What
I'd
a
rather
horny nerd.
Oh, totally. That's why I go on like vibes. I go on like showmanship. I go on. I'd almost sometimes rather listen to a stupid person talk than a smart person, because a stupid person is going to maybe make some connections that I otherwise wouldn't, and then it forces me to think. I'm gonna have to think now and try to figure out why this person is so stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Then a straight up nerd that thinks they have an over confidence in their own learnedness and their own abilities, their own education. I just don't know what else to say. I mean, the nerds are the problem. The tech nerds, the deep state nerds, all around.
Yeah, we need a nerd genocide. Speaking of genocide,
that's the name of the episode.
Nerd genocide. Speaking of genocide,
I think we just need a more creative thinking. Like we need to start thinking about things more creatively and more.
I do think
I make
that
fun of
that's
astrology and stuff like that, but
that shit's fun. I
Go
fuck
ahead.
with astrology, but no, I agree, and well, let's return to this this how nerds are destroying everything, and talk about a different kind of genocide really quickly, which is again another reason why I said this at the beginning of the show, why Burning Man is sparsely attended this year, is because Israelis are stuck in Israel, and I think they literally can't get out right now. People are stuck there, and so I think that a big portion of the attendees didn't make it because there's only El Al flying out of Tel Aviv right now.
Yeah, that's right.
But one thing that they're doing at this Burning Man, they did two things that I think are very interesting. The first was the organizers canceled a artwork that was supposed to be like a watermelon in reference to Palestine.
They canceled that?
Yeah, I don't think they allowed it to be constructed as of this reporting today. I do find the watermelon thing to be an annoying symbol. Like it's like the coconuts and watermelons and like just put the flag. I don't know. But what they did allow to happen.
Well, people started doing that because they were worried about getting flagged, right?
Yeah, but then they can just flag the watermelon. I don't know. Just say death to Israel.
Well,
Don't be a coward. I think that the thing that they did allow to happen that is happening Saturday night is a memoriam to the Nova Dance Festival. So they have they're having a DJ set where it says "We will dance again," which is the Israeli slogan for the Nova Festival. The rave outside of a concentration camp. They're allowing that to happen. So the Israelis that are in the United States, like Netanyahu's son, who you can Google him at his penthouse in Miami. It's very funny. Those Israelis are still there, and I think what this is kind of exposed, or here's an interesting little documentary. I sent this article over to you, but there was a huge history of psytrance and Israel. Like the psytrance is the anthem of the state of Israel. And are you familiar with what psytrance is?
I am, yeah.
How would you describe it?
It's like trance music from the 90s, but worse. How would you describe it?
Well, I was listening to it today to try to get a feel for it. The history of psytrance is that it was initially called Goa trance, and is in Goa, India. Now, it was not created in Goa. It was made in Europe and exported to the beaches of Goa in India for all these hippies in the 90s and 2000s. Psytrance to me is very neutral electronica. Like, it's very inoffensive. It's kind of, I think it's like 150 beats per minute, 160 beats per minute. So it's kind of easy to dance to. And there's just like no depth to it whatsoever. I love electronic music. I'm a huge, huge fan of electronic music. Psytrance is like,
okay, I'm out of my depth a little bit. Yeah.
But it's huge in Israel, and that's what they were listening to at the Nova Festival. That's what they were fucking dancing to outside of Rafah at the gate there when they were protesting the delivery of aid. Like the you should watch the footage of these fucking monsters dancing outside of the concentration camp, preventing humanitarian aid from entering. And they're dancing. It's one of the most evil fucking things you can see. And so the history of psytrance and Israel is kind of funny, and there's a documentary about it. And there's this one section I have to read to you. This is in a Haaretz article. And one of the sections was dancing to forget torture. Ilan Factor, a teacher and party producer, tells in the series, this is the documentary, an incident he remembers from his military service in which he says he and others watched IDF soldiers torture men in the Jabalia refugee camp, and the offenders suffered no consequences or punishment. We would dance and go crazy, doing everything just to forget that. Are you fucking kidding me? Can you imagine saying that with a fucking straight face?
It just makes me I'm in awe of the power of music.
Psytrance sucks, and the people who listen to it clearly suck because they're Israeli. But to say that with a straight face, to be like, yeah, we love psytrance because it makes us forget about the war crimes we commit.
War crimes, yeah.
Oh, unbelievable, man. That's so crazy to me.
Sort of like my Vietnam veteran dad when he got way into Jimmy Buffett in the 80s, just to forget. Is that what you're saying?
I fuck with Jimmy Buffett though a little bit. But
you're from Florida, you don't have a choice.
Yeah. No, it's punishable by death if you don't fucking like cheeseburgers here. So yeah, I think all of these things. I do think that going to Burning Man or going to any festival right now while this genocide is happening that started allegedly from an attack on a festival outside of the concentration camp, like, to me it's tasteless. It's not to say that you shouldn't have fun in this life, but there's something particularly weird about it to me right now. So I'm glad you didn't go to Burning Man this year, because you might have found yourself at the Israeli death dance.
Well, I think that's the first place we would have gone to, right?
Yeah, I would go there.
I would
go there and
the
fuck
watermelon.
shit up.
Did they really kill the watermelon part?
Mm-hmm.
Because that seems like such an obvious, terrible like PR move. Are we gonna have to post about this? I'm gonna do more research.
Yeah, we'll definitely post about it. So I wanted to return to the last thing here.
I love that you have an itinerary for these. I show up completely unprepared, just ramble on like 4 hours of sleep, and you got a whole like
Oh, I didn't
I
sleep
love
either
it.
much, man. But yeah, no, I mean, this stuff I listen to. I put a lot of work into this episode. I listened to hours of psytrance to try to understand this music and its appeal.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get it. I was like, this is so boring. It's just boring. It's inoffensive, and to go to a festival outside of a concentration camp to dance to this fucking garbage is pathetic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to get back to how I say this as someone who has had a really good time at these festivals and will most likely go again given the opportunity. What I think is very interesting is the parallels between Burning Man and American life today. The festival started like all Silicon Valley startups do, which is like these humble origins, right? Just these guys doing this thing. Kind of like, how Steve Jobs, he started Apple out of his parents' garage. Did you know that? Burning Man started on the beach with just some guys hanging out. And so, like the origins of the internet and all technology, all tools, there is the possibility of a utopia. The internet could have been a wonderful thing. Burning Man and its utopia could be something we export to the world, and it could be a net positive for humanity. But instead, is this the inevitable trajectory of all things? Does it always get captured by these market capital forces? And if we can't escape to something like this festival, if we can't escape to utopia, we can't make it up even for a week anymore, it's over. Where do we go? What's left?
Well, you're asking the wrong person, because I'm not really a cynic necessarily. I'm just not a. I'm just trying to accept things for what they are, And I think that we're on a run. I think the world is a runaway train, and there's just no stopping it. So you just make a choice what side you're going to be on and what kind of person you want to be before the train, the runaway train, like careens off the tracks. That's how I look at it, which is not really, I feel like I've said this on your podcast before. It irritates people when I say that, but everything that's alive is going to die. Every species goes extinct. Eventually all life on Earth is going to go extinct, and the sun is going to swell up and destroy the Earth. It's just the natural order of things. But that doesn't mean that life isn't worth living or it's not worth trying or anything. It's just accept it. You know what I mean?
No,
I'm sure Burning Man had some great years in like 89 to 91. I bet it was like just one of the most incredible experiences you could have as a human being on Earth. And now it is whatever the fuck it is now, It's just the cycle of things,
Yeah, and so I guess the question is always then what next? Where to escape to now? And I wonder if they will finally close off every escape. That's my great fear, because I guess like when you think about the history of humanity and why people went to these far ends of the earth, it was to escape things. It was to go somewhere else where you could be free or not be killed. And now it's like you can't live in the forest anymore, dude. You cannot live in the forest.
It's going to end with a whimper. We're all going to be sort of like, brain rot NPCs with Neuralinks on us telling us what to think. There's going to be a tube that like delivers slop to your studio apartment.
I don't know. I guess
that's where we're headed.
The comfort I have is knowing how fucking stupid these Silicon Valley pricks really are, is that Neuralink is not going to work. I mean, maybe that'll create like a nightmare beyond all comprehension, like Event Horizon, Demon Dimension.
I was like, it'll work. It'll be Event Horizon.
You know nothing. Hell is only a word. The reality is much, much worse. Let me show you.
It'll work. Don't worry.
But I have to believe in an escape and something that'll be next. I do wonder what the Zoomers will do, because the average age of a burner is about 40 years old, and I think 60% make over six figures.
40?
It's close to 40 is the average age of a burner. I don't think that the Zoomers are gonna fuck with this shit the same way, and so maybe they'll find something different, something else. And so I have to believe there's another way. I agree with you that, like, you know, the what's the Godspeed You Black Emperor lyric? Like, there's no one at the wheel, the car's on fire, and no one's at the wheel.
And there's no driver at the wheel.
But you're in that car, and you get to choose which window to look out of. That's your choice, is where you look. And I
have a different picture for myself. I want a hero's death, and I don't know how it's gonna come yet. I don't think I'll be looking out the window of the car.
You could run into the next year's Burning Man in a blaze. You could run into the fire.
I'm thinking more like Killdozer type exit from this earth, and then in 20 years there'll be a podcast about me. That's how I want to go out.
Well, I'd hate to burst your bubble, but the Killdozer thing is a petite bourgeois tantrum. The reason the guy did that was because he
I know why.
Yeah,
I know.
But he had the right idea. I mean,
I think he was getting fucked with by the government. The government was like kind of, it was real like crony. The family ran the city council or something. It was like a real petty dispute.
That's your playa name. That's your playa name. It's Killdozer.
I was gonna say, I thought petty dispute. I thought you were gonna say petty dispute.
Petty dispute.
Playa name is Petty. That is a good playa name for me. Actually.
Yeah. If I ever go to Burning Man again, it's very important to have a bicycle, a means of transportation, because it's huge and you don't want to walk the whole way. But I want to dress up like the Hamburglar and just fucking steal everything from everyone all the time. Like, that'll be my character.
Can we go the other direction? Can we bring like 4-wheelers and like jetpacks and shit? Can we just go the other direction? A bicycle.
I don't think they let you bring gas-powered vehicles on there unless you get them registered with as an art car. Oh, I forgot to mention this.
No.
I forgot to mention. Hold on.
No gas-powered vehicles unless it's propane. No gas-powered vehicles until you drive your 70,000, RVs and Sprinter vans on the fly. But once you're there, you can't use gas. You have to use propane.
There's an art car. There was an art car at Burning Man. It was called the Mayan Warrior, and I saw it at that Love Burn, and just this year it went up in flames. And I remember when I heard about this, they're saying like, "Oh yeah, that's like the Mexican cartel's money laundering vehicle." That's like kind of what everyone knew. Everyone knew that the Mexican cartel, one of the maybe Sinaloa, I don't know, they that was their art car. So even demons like to have fun too.
I think they just like to launder money. Those are the only people on earth that scare me. So I don't want to talk about them. I support those guys. Actually, I'd like to say that.
Yeah,
they're entrepreneurs and they hate the government.
They are the government. They are the government. That's the difference.
I know. I said, come on.
I respect the cartels. I respect the They don't care. I respect the cartels.
They're not nerds. Let's just say that.
Oh, that's a very good point. Yeah, they're not nerds. Maybe they have like a Jewish accountant or something, but otherwise not nerds.
They're not nerds.
One thing that the Mexican cartel did that I thought was very funny was they started to color their fentanyl so that if it were to get mixed in with like cocaine or something like that, you'd see like these flecks of like blue or red or green or whatever, and you'd be like, oh, that cocaine is laced with fentanyl. I shouldn't do that. Because that's a good business decision. You don't want to kill your clientele, and you certainly don't want to fucking
good branding.
You don't want to speedball them. So what was funny was the United States was like, the Mexican drug cartels are trying to trick your kids into doing fentanyl with candy-colored fentanyl, when actually they're doing more to prevent fentanyl overdoses than our own government is.
I want to ask a dumb question. Someone that's been out of the drug and party game for a while, why the fuck is the fentanyl getting mixed in with the cocaine so much? Why?
Because it's deregulated, because you don't have the proper bureaucracy at play, properly cutting up cocaine. You have one guy cutting up cocaine on the same table as they cut up fentanyl, and it inevitably gets kind of mixed up. So what you need is the FDA to step in and clean up our cocaine.
Okay. Thanks for clearing that up.
I think that's a great note to end the show.
Quite sure.
That's a great note to end the show on.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to say one last thing about the nerds. I think that's what is the cringiest part of Burning Man to me, is that you get these people that don't get to cut loose very much, people that weren't really that cool, people that quote found their tribe. That's another one of my cliches. Found your tribe. I mean, I've had like good friends since I was a teenager that I still keep in touch with.
Yeah.
So that's what's so embarrassing about Burning Man is it's these nerds that get to go pretend like they're free spirits and find themselves and be cool. I mean, I've known who I was for better or for worse, probably worse, since I was about like 14 years old. Pretty much been the same with almost no personal growth or development whatsoever. So I don't need to go find myself at a festival. Some of us were, doing drugs and like setting things on fire when we were 14 years old. So
yeah,
nerds,
some of us were smoking mid weed out of Slim Fast cans when we were 12 years old. I won't say who.
That counts. That's it's a radical transformational experience, or whatever they say.
But I have to hope not everything falls prey to the capitalist realism of market forces. Like, there has to be something outside of it that cannot be captured. I don't know what it is yet. It's certainly not this podcast, which you should right now go to patreon.com/coexistinc and give me $5 you cheapskates. But I don't know where it's going to be. I don't know what it is, but it ain't Burning Man. That's for sure.
It's definitely not Burning Man.
I am gay. I like men. I lift weights. I can dance. My place is neat. I keep it clean. I floss every day.